Yes. Who will follow me today? Who's following? Okay. Can see?
G.
We'll start. Sahana Vavatu
Sahana Bhavatu.
Sahanau Bhanaktu
Sahana Bhunaktu.
Sahaviryam Karavavahai
Saha Viryam Karavavahai.
Tejasvinavadhitamastu
Tejasvinavadhitamastu.
Ma Vidvishavahai
Ma Vidvishavahai.
Om Shanti
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Vasudevendra Yogindram
Vasudevendra Yogendram.
Natva Jnanapradam Gurum
Tattva Bodham Gurum.
Mumukshunam Hitarthaya
Mumukshuram Tarthaya.
Tattva Bodho Bhidhi
Tattva Bodho Vidhi.
Vasudevendra Yogindram Natva Jnanapradam Gurum
Vasudevendra Yogendram. Tattva Bodham Gurum.
There should be an uki matra here. Mumukshunam hitarthaya tattva bodho bhidhiyate.
Mumukshuram Hitarthaya. Tattva Bodho Vidhiyate.
Vasudevendra Yogindram Natva Jnanapradam Gurum Mumukshunam hitarthaya Tattva Bodho Bhidhiyate.
Vasudevendra Yogendram. Natva Jnanapradam. Mumukshuram Hitarthaya. Tattva Bodho Vidhiyate.
Nityan Shuddhan Nirabhasam
नित्यं शुद्धं निराभासं
Nirakaram Niranjanam
निराकारं निरञ्जनं
Nityabodham Chidanandam
नित्यबोधं चिदानन्दं
Gurum Brahma Namamyaham
गुरुं ब्रह्म नमाम्यहम्
Nityam Shuddhan Nirabhasam Nirakaran Niranjanam
नित्यं शुद्धं निराभासं निराकारं निरञ्जनम्
Nityabodham Chidanandam Gurum Brahma Namamyaham
नित्यबोधं चिदानन्दं गुरुं ब्रह्म नमाम्यहम्
So we will continue, leave it here now, and continue with the fourfold qualifications, mental disciplines that we have spoken of, and we've started last week, and the first one being Viveka, second is Vairagya, otherwise Viragaha, because the definition is given here, but Vairagyam is the quality. Then Shatka Sampattihi and Mumukshutva. And we've started with the first one called Vivekaha. And we were trying to see what really is Vivekaha. And to say that, we said first and foremost is important to understand that normal thinking process, which is in a linear way, is only vichar. There's a distinction, a very thin line between vichar and vivek. Vichar is any thinking process. So you want to do something, you want to get something, you want to gain something, you want to go somewhere. Everything involves a systematic thinking process. Opposite of vichar is impulse. Impulse is something which is swabhavik, means without thinking, you just act. There is no reasoning, there is no process of evaluation. It is just acting as per whatever comes to one's thoughts, as per one's hopes, desires, wishes, likes, dislikes. जो भी मन में आया और एकदम से कर देना, बिना सोचे. The Hindi puts it better. बिना कुछ सोचे बस कर दिया. That is that swabhavik, impulsive capacity to act, of course, but बिना कुछ systematic thinking involvement. Vichar is purely restricted to one's activities in the world, one's interactions in the world. It is only when something is tangible that you can think about it. So vichar involves thinking about something which is tangible. But Vivek is very clearly a distinction. It is a differentiation. It comes from the Sanskrit root vichir. Vichir. All words in Sanskrit have their root base. Like a tree has a root, and from that root you can form a lot of words. Sanskrit has a uniqueness about it, that all words have a basic root word, and from there a lot of words get implied because Sanskrit is supposed to be a concise language. So there is capacity to build upon many words from the same root. The root vichir is used in the sense of prithak bhave. The ga here means prithak bhave. Bhave means in the sense of. In the sense of prithak. Prithak is alag karna, separating. So prithak means something which you are separating out. You are discerning, of course, mentally, because here the process is discernment. But vichir means something that you are separating. That separating out is Viveka. Now, I'll go back one step before. We said in the last class, Viveka, Shastra says to us at two levels. One level is when it is the process of qualifying oneself, and the other is when it is the process of the very Viveka, when it is employed in a particular way. One will give us qualification and another process will give us moksha. What is this that gives us qualification first? To do that, we said, what is it that you have to separate out? The definition we saw, nitya, anitya, vastu, vivekaha. That you separate out what is nitya and what is anitya. This nitya is nitya, anitya. When the sandhi has formed, it's become nitya. So nitya, anitya, in दोनों के बीच में doing a discernment, doing a separation. To qualify, what is that we are saying is the separating feature? First of all, to appreciate that everyone, wherever, a living being, there is just one common force in all living beings, is to be happy. Happiness is something that propels living force to generate actions, to generate interactions, to generate the flow of life. Sukh prapti is a basic impulse. जहां जहां सुख दिखेगा, वहां वहां जीव गति करेगा. Other forces, sometimes even stronger, which is dukha nivritti. जहां जहां वो देखेगा कि यहाँ दुख है, वो वहां वहां से अपने आप को अलग करेगा. So the force to separate yourself out of it. These two is what is a universal urge, universal necessity to gain happiness, and by all means to avoid anything that's looked upon as a source of unhappiness, sorrow. This nitya, this sukha prapti ki jo ichha hai, if we analyze it further, Shastra says, then you look very closely to your own need for happiness. Your need for happiness says that I want happiness, but I want it also eternally, long lasting. मुझे ऐसा कोई सुख नहीं चाहिए जो आज है और कल नहीं है. If I suspect that this sukh will only last a short period of time, I kind of lose interest in it. I can't value it as much. I may still want it. But अब मेरे को थोड़ी सी अलगता महसूस होने लगती है उस चीज से. Like for example, if you look upon some some dish as something which gives you happiness, and you really, the minute you see it, you move towards it because you look upon it as a source of happiness. But then, just when you are about to consume it, someone tells you it's stale, and stale you don't like. So you like it, you look upon that thing as a source of happiness, but the minute someone said it is stale, instantly you see that you may still have it, but the same level of expectation of happiness from it has gone. It's reduced. अब वो आपको नहीं लगता कि वो उतना आनंद देगा जो पहले देता अगर वो fresh होता. Supposing someone tells you there is poison added to it. Now what will happen to the same object? The same object you no longer are now interested in. Suddenly you have lost all interest in the same object that was looked upon as a source of immense happiness. Which means anything that when I look upon as happiness, I want it, but I want it to be lasting. I want it to last for a long period of time, because when I see that it lasts for a long period of time, I see that my struggle for happiness gets reduced. You have to make a note, pay attention on that particular point. Why do I want happiness? Because I struggle to get happiness first. I want happiness. I'm ready to do something for it. I know that whatever I'm ready to do for it, I know for sure that I cannot go on doing it. So what do I want? I want happiness. I'm ready to do something for it. But in the process, the happiness that I expect, I want it to last very long so that I get freedom from this struggle to find happiness. नित्य सुखम की अपेक्षा है. I want sukh to last. Not only do I want sukh to last, I want only sukh to last. Which means I don't want to enter a cycle where again I am going to get some dukh, or again this sukh will get replaced by diminution. So just as this dish, suddenly I find I'm no longer much interested, but then I still want happiness. So when I want still happiness from something, I look for something else. Now this kind of a struggle that I initiate or I find myself always in, I want some relief from it. I want some rest in it. I want some relaxation in it. To get that relaxation or to get relief from this constant हिचकी और हिचकी बार बार रुक रुक के जो आती रहती है हमारे अंदर, एकदम से सडनली हिचकी आ जाती है. So that just when I'm enjoying my happiness, I'm just loving the weather I'm getting, but I know it's not lasting. So I enjoy it for that moment, but I know I can't depend on it forever. Now एक हिचकी आ गई. So the minute I say I want happiness, look at the qualification that comes with it. I not only want happiness, I want the happiness to last, and I want only happiness. I don't want something else added in. That means supposing I had asked for a child, I did not ask for a child who was going to be dumb, or I did not ask for a child who I would have had to take care of for the rest of my life. Means I asked for a child, but I asked for a child who was going to be all healthy, normal, everything functioning, etc., etc., etc. You can multiply any number of examples because the idea is that it is so inherent in everything we do. तो अगर हम वो चीज एक्स्ट्रापोलेट कर सके अपने विजन में, अपने परसेप्शन में कि क्या हम चाह रहे हैं, उसको हम पहचानने लगे, वो दृष्टि बनने लगे कि जो हम मांगते हैं अपने सुख का सोर्स, उनमें there are certain qualifications that we add with it. Third qualification we add to it is not only should it be lasting, not only should it be only kevala sukham, it should be unsurpassable. Niratishayam means it should be something which has nothing more than that. It should be ultimate happiness. इससे ज़्यादा आनंद कुछ हो नहीं सकता. You know, when we go for some certain things, and then bucket list, people have bucket lists, and when you start checking off एक एक करके. Now, what was your bucket list indicating? That if I do this, I'll be very happy. So in my lifetime, I have this bucket list. If I've managed to achieve tick marks on these bucket lists, I'll be a very satisfied person. I'll be a very happy person. Means, वो आनंद इतना आनंद होएगा because I'm looking at myself with respect to others who were not able to fulfill their bucket list. उनके मुकाबले, I have a lot of happiness. Is this point expressed? So you kind of equate your happiness with a lot of happiness, more happiness and less happiness. So the happiness is never taken as happiness. Happiness is always taken with some sort of a comparative degree. I want more out of it, or I wanted something else out of it, or this is not enough for me. You know, you see your own words, you see how you talk to your friends and how you talk to your close people, and you realize जो बहुत ज़्यादा close हैं आपके, जिनके साथ आप खुल के बात करते हैं, उनमें आप ये सब चीजें, जिनके साथ आप अपनी closest चीजें share करते हैं, वहां पे आपके ये शब्द आपको खुद को सुनाई देते हैं. You are talking to them, this is not what I wanted, or you know, this is really what I wanted and I got it. But when you say I got it, you have in your mind already the image of all those who were wanting it. Means आपको क्यों इतना आनंद आता है? क्योंकि बहुत से लोग हैं जिनके पास वो नहीं है. बहुत सारी forget about लोग. You yourself know बहुत सारी possibility थी जिससे आपको भी ना मिलता वो. Forget other people. Even in your idea of a lot of happiness, you knew that there were many such things which could have prevented that level of happiness, and yet you got it. So you find that the degree of happiness that you ask for is something which is it should be the culminating. इससे ज़्यादा कुछ आनंद होगा ही नहीं. मतलब that should be my highest state of happiness. So you take this forward and backward. As I'm talking to you, I'm suddenly realizing it should have been a circle. This should have been drawn in a circle. Sukh kya chahiye mujhe? Make it a circle like this. I need Nityam. I want Kevalam. And I want Niratishayam. And that Niratishayam should be obviously Nityam. So maybe it'll consume some time, but I can draw it here. If you visualize it, it's beautiful. You know, you want Nitya Sukham? Instead of putting it in a linear way like this, put it in a circular way. You want Nitya Sukham? That Nitya Sukham should be Kevalam. That Kevalam should be Niratishayam. And that Niratishayam means unsurpassable. इससे ज़्यादा कुछ सुख होता ही नहीं है. वो क्या हो सकता है? वो तो नित्यम ही हो सकता है. So you see, they all seem to be pointing to something. All three of them are pointing to something which you are constantly, जीवन से मरण तक. अपना मरण की बात हम नहीं करेंगे अभी के लिए. जीवन से मरण तक हमारे में एक ही बस इच्छा रही है, और वो रही है आनंद की. और उस आनंद को प्राप्त करने के लिए हमारी गति जीवन की बनती है. हम क्या करते हैं, हम क्या नहीं करते, हम किन से मिलते हैं, हम किन से नहीं मिलते, हम किसको अवॉइड करते हैं, हम किस, सब कुछ, everything moves around this concept of sukha prapti. शास्त्र says, ये जो सुख की आपकी प्राप्ति है, this seems to be the backdrop of everything that you are consumed with in life. Now, examine. आपने ये सब चीजें कहाँ ढूंढी? I just finished the statement कि हमारे पूरे जीवन में we are busy doing it. We are busy seeking it. You know? We want it more and more. कहाँ ढूंढी हमने ये सब? right from our childhood. If you look at it, when we were really young, we looked at it through our parents, through our siblings. First, before that, through food. Food is the greatest source of happiness at that time. When you see your child and you know that when it's hungry, it cries, and when it gets the food, it's joyful. Why? Because it's looking upon food as a source of happiness because it nourishes itself. Impulse. That what you see from the beginning onwards, आप जिस पे उसको impose कर रहे हो, on whatever you are delegating it. Delegating is the right word. On what am I delegating the happiness in my life throughout? Before you come to that point, previous point should be clear. That I'm looking for happiness through my birth till death period. If this is an uncompromised, accepted statement to me, then I can proceed in further examination of this. The further examination of this is that this happiness that I am looking for, in what all did I look? किस में मैंने इसको impose किया, delegate किया? On food, on shelter, on clothes, on people, on relations, on money, name, fame, power, position, status, education. In everything, I was imposing. I was delegating. Life यही तो है. इसमें क्या है? वो you'll ask, someone will ask me. इससे ज़्यादा क्या है? यही तो है life. So if you're imposing it on this, where else will you impose it? इधर से ही तो हम ढूंढेंगे अपना सुख. So you are constant, the mind or a person is constantly feeling justified in his approach to seek happiness in the world. Shastra says, examine ये बात. यहाँ सोचो, pause and think. जिन जिन वस्तुओं में आपने इम्पोज किया है, क्या वो नित्य है बाय स्वभाव? क्या उनका नेचर है कि वो नित्य रहेंगी? Means, if I was depending on food, is food going to give me nitya happiness? If I was depending on money, was money going to be nitya available? Always there for me to get my happiness? Even if it is always there, I don't get the same happiness. A lot of rich people don't have the happiness that they had before they were rich. When they were in the pursuit of happiness, they were far more happier than when they got happiness. Now, when you continue to observe these areas where you are looking for happiness, जहां जहां हमने ढूंढने की कोशिश की उसको, क्या उस जगह का नित्यत्वम आप एस्टैब्लिश कर सकते हो? अगर आप कर सकते हो, then your expectation of nitya sukham is correct from that object or that person. Lasting? Is anything going to be in the world which will last forever? Because we've already done this. Nature of world has changed anyway. So जहां जहां हम सुख की अपेक्षा रख रहे हैं, the first and foremost separation is Viveka is first bud of Vivek is, you know, बुद्धि में जागृत आती है, एक अवस्था आती है, बुद्धि जागती है. What am I doing? I want happiness, I cannot get away from it. ये बात सच है. I cannot say कि I want unhappiness and I do not know anything else. मुझे और क्या चाहिए? When I say I want knowledge, I want happiness because I want knowledge for happiness. When I say I want money for happiness. When I say I want relations for happiness. When I say I want that particular person, I want that person because I want happiness. I can't see anything else but wanting happiness. Even when I say, okay, I don't want anything, बस अब जिंदगी में कुछ नहीं चाहिए. When do you say that? When you have a certain degree of status quo of harmony or peace or वो जो भी आपको चाहिए था, and now you want that to last. This that you are seeing as wanting happiness and you are imposing it on something else. On what you impose, Shastra says, iski buddhi बना लो पहले कि ये lasting happiness नहीं है. Point 1. What is the point 1? Point 1 is, what is nitya anitya vastu viveka? With reference to something that will qualify me further in my inner growth and maturity, is to first determine, clear in my mind. Till I'm not clear on this, I have to repeat this, constantly keep reflecting on it, revising it, watch it in my experience of life, because this is actually knowledge only of life, of experience that we are going through. It is not something that you will start experiencing after you know. It is something that I experience, but I do not register. So I experience that I am in constant want of happiness. Fine. I have nothing else at this point to negate that want. But I only also helplessly have only the world to look for happiness. That is why हम सबकी प्रवृत्ति अलग है, लेकिन चीज तो वही चाहिए. जब हमको higher position of life चाहिए, जब हम कुछ भी चाहिए, I can't even repeat words because it'll get so repetitive. Because all of us, this is where I have always said from day one of whenever I've taken classes, helpless in looking for it. That is it. Now starts as, oh my God, is there any connection between the two? Is that really possible? कि जो मुझे चाहिए वो मुझे वहां से मिलेगा? क्या ये पॉसिबल भी है? क्योंकि दुनिया में तो कोई चीज लास्टिंग नहीं है. Nothing lasts. If nothing is lasting, then this want for lasting happiness, should I remove it? Let's be factual. Those who say there is no life after death, etc., etc., तो चलो आप अपने आप को stop looking for happiness. Can you just live like a tree, like a stone? Stop just looking for anything. Are you going to be content with just what you have? And that contentment is not a state of wisdom that I'm talking about. Just be. बिना कुछ किए क्या आप रह सकते हो? क्या आप बिना कुछ करे बैठ सकते हो? नहीं. Since you cannot sit doing nothing, since you are always looking for it, पहला direction is, जहां हम ढूंढ रहे हैं, क्या ये वहां मिलेगा? There's a traditional story. It goes in every Vedanta class. The traditional story is of it's called the story of a lost needle. There was an old lady, जिनकी नंबर ऐनक के बढ़े हुए थे. So she was stitching her फटा हुआ कपड़ा, her sari or dupatta. She was stitching it. While she was putting the thread through, the needle fell. Now she already has glasses, so she is not able to see her glass. They were not enough to locate that thin needle. Now she was looking for needle outside because it had gone dark by then. And there was street light outside, and she was constantly looking, living by the street, constantly looking under it. Needle ढूंढ रही है अपना. Passerby looking for something. दो चार निकल जाते हैं. But a young child, young boy, young person asks, Amma, what are you looking for? What do you want? क्या ढूंढ रही हो आप? So Amma says, I'm looking for, मेरी ना needle खो गई है, मैं सिल रही थी, मेरी needle खो गई है. The child thinks, let me help her. Good value. Starts to help her. Looks. आधा घंटा, पौना घंटा ढूंढे जा रहे हैं, नहीं मिल रही है. टाइम निकलता जा रहा है, रात होती और जा रही है. There are 2-3 more people who come. कुछ लोग आके चले जाते हैं, कुछ लोग आते हैं, 2 लोग ढूंढ रहे हैं, पूछने लगते हैं क्या ढूंढ रहे हो, सेम स्टोरी. तीसरा कहता है चलो मैं भी हेल्प करता हूँ, शायद जल्दी मिल जाएगा. करते करते there are 6-7 people looking for the needle. They can't find the needle. 10th person, 12th person, one person after some time comes and says, इतनी भीड़ इकट्ठी क्या ढूंढ रही है, अब तो जगह भी नहीं रहेगी ढूंढने की, हिलने की, क्या ढूंढ रहे हैं ये लोग. He asks them, what are you looking for? So one of them says, this Amma has lost her needle, we are trying to help her and we want to help her. We want to find the needle for her. She can't look for it herself. The man asks Amma, this person asks Amma, Amma, कहाँ खोई थी आपने needle? She says, कुटिया में, अंदर कुटिया में. So everybody stops then and there. ना? एकदम से, stand still is the expression. The minute Amma says, I lost it in the kutia. Kutia was behind. पीछे थी. I lost it in the kutia. Everybody, huh? Then this person says, but why are you looking for it here? She says, बेटा light यहाँ है ना. जहाँ light है मैं वहाँ ढूंढ रही हूँ. Will the needle ever be found? Can it ever be found? No. Why? Because it was lost somewhere else. But why are you looking for it there? Because the light is here. In the very same way, the happiness that you are looking for, where it is lost, is at another point. We'll talk about it when Vedanta comes to that definition. But where are you looking for is the point here. You are looking for it where there is light, which is where world. Your senses are illumining the world. You find yourself alive in the world. You have lost your happiness as if because you're searching for happiness in everything. ढूंढ रहे हो आनंद, लेकिन कहाँ ढूंढ रहे हो? आप ढूंढ रहे हो वहां जहां वो मिलती नहीं है, कोई नहीं in the first place. इस दुनिया में वो थी ही नहीं कभी भी. इस दुनिया में कभी actually में it was never there and it's not an ingredient of the world that you can get it from there. Food is an ingredient of the world, air is an ingredient of the world, water is an ingredient of the world. You can get it from there. But is happiness an ingredient of the world? Is world made up by one of the things that is actually happiness plus happiness? अगर है तो फिर हाँ कोई किसी को तो मिल जाएगी. मगर सब ढूंढ रहे हैं वहां पे और किसी को भी नहीं मिलती है, क्योंकि सब जहां ढूंढ रहे हैं वहां तो वो है ही नहीं. And who is that one person who came and asked? कहाँ ढूंढी? To get the answer, you've understood the concept. The one who had Viveka, जिसने एम्प्लॉय किया. फर्स्ट तो ढूंढा ना भैया, मैं जहां ढूंढ रहा हूं, जहां ये सब लोग ढूंढ रहे हैं, और एक जनरेशन नहीं है ये. It's not me from life to death alone, poor me. You don't know. I'm the only one who seems to be denied the happiness. बाकी सबको तो मिल रही है. Really? किसी को भी मिली है? You know, हमारे पहले ever since any prani is here. That's why we said in the previous class, remember the definition, sarve pranina. All living beings are looking for it. Did any living being find it? Ever? बस जिसको ये clinch हो जाता है ना, the penny drops for whom? For him starts the next inquiry. When the penny drops, oh my God, what have I done? Or what am I doing? Or what are we all doing? Because I'm not exclusive. Helplessly सबने किया, हमने भी किया. सबने कहा पढ़ लो, हमने पढ़ लिया. सबने कहा जॉब ढूंढ लो, खुश हो जाओगे, जॉब ढूंढ ली, खुश. नहीं हुए, सबने कहा हायर पोजीशन जाओ, एक और एग्जाम पास कर लो, हमने कर ली, वो अब खुश हो जाओगे, हम अब भी नहीं हुए। किसी ने कहा अच्छा ठीक है और थोड़ा सा बड़ा घर ले लो तो खुश हो जाओगे, हमने कहा हाँ ठीक है बड़ा घर ले लेते हैं, हमने वो भी नहीं खुश हुए। किसी ने कहा अच्छा नहीं अपनी कार बदल लो, बड़ी कार ले लो, खुश हो जाओ, हाँ वो भी कर। अच्छा नहीं नहीं तुम्हारे पास सर्वेंट्स नहीं है, अच्छा वो भी रख लिए, फुल टाइम रख लिए, 2 रख लिए, 3 रख लिए, गार्डनर रख लिया, ड्राइवर रख लिया, बंगलो हो गया, सब कुछ हो गया, बैंक बैलेंस इनफ हो गया कि अब मुझे काम करने की भी जरूरत नहीं है, सब कुछ। अरे इतनी बड़ी फॉलोइंग ट्विटर पे है, इंस्टाग्राम पे है, सब कुछ है, फेसबुक पे पूछो मत मुझे। आई एम एब्सोल्युटली द इन नेम, करेक्ट। You have deserved it all, you worked very hard for it, understood. Happiness did you get? Because that is what you started off with, that's what you wanted from it. Did you get that from there? कुछ तो मिला कभी, लेकिन I finally I realize if I'm really honest to myself, I'm worse than what I started with. Because all that chase has tired me. थका दिया है, बहुत डिजेक्शन, बहुत सारे एक्सपीरियंस ऐसे गैदर कर लिए जो सोचे नहीं थे दैट विल कम अलोंग विद इट। केवल सुखम चाहिए था ना, लेकिन केवल सुखम के साथ साथ बहुत कुछ ऐसा ऐसा साथ साथ जुड़ता गया जो एक्चुअली में इन द प्रोसेस ऑफ सुख ऐसी ऐसी चीजें जुड़ गई जो पता ही नहीं था कि दुख का कारण बनती है। मैनेज भी कर लिया, सब कुछ हो गया। When the penny drops, I am looking for happiness where it is not available. Now the person instantly, मैंने कहा ना जब पता चला कि उस खाने में पॉइजन है तो क्या हुआ, एकदम से छूट गया। वैसे ही जिस दिन बुद्धि में वो पेनी ड्रॉप हो जाती है ना, उस दिन सब गति रुक जाती है फॉर सम टाइम। अंदर ही अंदर अब किसी चीज में इंटरेस्ट नहीं रह जाता है कि अब मैं ये करूं वो करूं, वो दुनिया भाग रही है, पता नहीं क्या चाहिए उनको। आप सोचते हो, आपको पता है कि वो जिसके पीछे भाग रही है, ठन 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 इज लाइक खाली हाथ आए हैं, खाली हाथ लौटेंगे, कुछ नहीं मिलेगा एक्सेप्ट। Now what has started to happen, remember another story over here, these two stories indicate beautifully something. Everybody is following in a line, एक के पीछे एक के पीछे एक। What is that एक के पीछे? पैदा हुए, रोए धोए, खिलौनों से खेले, नए खिलौने चाहिए थे, खिलौना टूटा तो रोए, फिर बहुत जिद की मम्मी पापा से और ज्यादा खिलौने चाहिए, फिर सबको बड़ा 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 बड़ा। कुछ साल निकल गए, खिलौनों में हमने पता नहीं क्या क्या बना दिए, हमने अपने घर बना लिए खिलौनों से, हमने बहुत कुछ किया खिलौनों की दुनिया में, खिलौनों के साथ हमारे नेसेसरी फॉर द डेवलपमेंट ऑफ अ ह्यूमन बीइंग, करेक्ट। बड़े हुए, अब खिलौने एकदम छूट गए, अब खिलौनों के साथ खिलवाए उसको, बाय द टाइम द चाइल्ड हैज कम टू 10 and 12 and 14, नहीं नाउ अब खिलौने बदल गए। जब खिलौने बदले तो ना I want my bicycles and tricycles and I want my girlfriends and boyfriends and I want all that thing and I want, there is a whole force of life. खिलौने खेल लिए, थोड़े से और निकल गए, now I want that one specific person जिसके साथ जिंदगी में आराम से रह सकेंगे। खिलौना आ गया एक और, फिर what happened now after few years, now happiness status को हो गया, diminish होने लगती है। We all have now understood the context. If we have understood so far, we will realize on whatever we have depended happiness, उसकी happiness diminish होने लगती है with time passing. Now what happened? Now everybody now have children, you'll be happy. Now had children, no, थोड़ा time very happy because children were listening to you. The minute they grew up a little bit and first time they retorted back and suddenly you realize ये तो वो नहीं था जो मैंने पैदा किया था. This turned out to be somebody else, and then both the partners are blaming each other. तुम पे गया. Both of them are saying तुम पे गया. Why? Because suddenly you realize कि ये तो अपने आप में एक independent entity है, ये तो ना तुम्हारा है ना मेरा है, ये तो पता नहीं अपने आप। And Khalil Gibran starts off, children are not yours, they come through you. No, now philosophy started coming because suddenly it's a wake up call. Now this is not the source of happiness that I was looking at. Suddenly the happiness has diminished. बट उतने में आपके कितने साल निकल गए जिंदगी के, 30-40 साल निकल गए। तब तक उस बच्चे को बड़ा करने के लिए आपको जॉब सस्टेन करनी पड़ी थी, ऑल दैट स्टफ नाउ यू नो वेरी वेल। ऑल दिस हैप्पीनेस, दिस इज दैट लाइन आई एम टॉकिंग ऑफ द सेकंड स्टोरी। एक चल रहा है आगे, इस लाइन पे चल रहा है, मीन्स चिल्ड्रन, बड़े, एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा, एंड उसके पीछे वाला भी वही कर रहा है, मीन्स वन आफ्टर अनदर वी आर ऑल लीडिंग द सेम मॉडल ऑफ लाइफ. एज ईच वन इज गोइंग, एक पीछे लगा हुआ जो बहुत आगे, लंबी आगे एक लाइन लगी हुई है उसके, मीन्स फ्यू जनरेशंस आर अहेड ऑफ हिम. नया नया ही आस्क्स आगे वाले से, भैया हम कहाँ जा रहे हैं? मुझे नहीं पता. आगे वाला जहाँ जा रहा है मैं उसके पीछे लगा हूँ. फिर उसको और आगे वाले से पूछा, भैया कहाँ जा रहे हैं? पता नहीं, वो जहाँ जा रहा है हम भी वहीं लगे हुए हैं, कहीं तो जा रहे हैं, हम सब साथ ही जा रहे हैं, जहाँ भी जा रहे हैं. उससे आगे से पूछा, उससे आगे से पूछा, ऐसे पूछते 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 द लाइन केम वेरी क्लोज. बाय द टाइम जस्ट पीछे वाला पूछ रहा था, आगे वाले से फॉल्स डाउन. देयर इज अ प्रेसिपिस एंड द सबसे आगे वाला फॉल्स डाउन एंड ही इज नॉट अवेलेबल फॉर द आंसर. एंड जो पीछे वाला अभी कहने ही लगा था पीछे वाले को रुको, but the force from behind was so much because there is now force behind. लोग जुड़े हुए हैं, धक्का दे रहे हैं उसे, क्योंकि उसको आगे वाले पोजीशन पे जाना है ना, उसको आगे जाना है, उसको हायर पोजीशन चाहिए, उसको हायर पोजीशन, उसको बड़ा घर चाहिए, उसको बड़ा घर, उसको बड़ी गाड़ी चाहिए. वो आगे वाले के पास, वो पीछे से पुश वाला, बिफोर ही कैन से कि यहाँ कुछ भी नहीं है, यू सी फॉलिंग. इनमें से वन ऑड पर्सन रिस्क्स द लाइफ, रिस्क्स किए जहां सब जा रहे हैं. उसको लगता है जब किसी को पता ही नहीं कि कहाँ जा रहे हैं, तो ही डिसाइड्स लेट मी इंक्वायर, स्टैंड्स आउट ऑफ द लाइन. द मिनट ही स्टैंड्स आउट ऑफ द लाइन, दिस इज वेयर यू कॉल देम आउटकास्ट्स, रेबल्स. सोच में अलग हो गए ये लोग. द मिनट ही स्टैंड्स आउट ऑफ द लाइन जस्ट टू ऑब्जर्व कि लाइन जा कहाँ रही है, he puts a pause to his life's activities because he doesn't understand ये लाइफ जा कहाँ रही है, क्या कर, इस लाइफ को लेके कहाँ जाना है. लाइक एवरीबडी यही करना है, तो फिर ये लोगों को खुशी मिल जानी चाहिए थी ना, किसी को तो मिल गई होती, मेरे आगे तो बहुत सारे लोग हैं. The minute he goes apart and he sees a little ahead of where this line is moving, he comes to the recognition instantly that this line is moving nowhere. They're all moving to their destruction. Which manner of destruction? Not physical destruction. No, that life has come with its own prarabdha, as we call it. जो span लिखा है life का सबका जिएगा, but that destruction is of your potential of a human being. The minute he sees that and he tries to warn people, he tries to say कि जिंदगी में और भी कुछ है, not just this, खाओ पियो मजे करो bye bye, खाओ पियो मजे करो bye bye. Just when he is about to say that, he realizes उसको कोई सुन नहीं रहा है. क्यों नहीं सुन रहा? Because सबका mind preoccupied है. किस चीज से? वो आगे वाला इंसान जहां पहुंचा है ना, मुझे वहां पहुंचना है, फिर आनंद मिल जाएगा. वो वेट ही नहीं करते हैं कि पूछे आगे वाले को मिला क्या. एग्जामिन करो, अगर करोगे तो दिखेगा कि आगे वाला और आगे वाले को देख रहा है, उसको मिला होगा, इसलिए मुझे वहां. whole life everyone's only chasing each other's pursuits of life and nobody comes to this decisiveness कि no 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 no, खोया नहीं है, नीडल तो कहीं और खोया है, तो हम यहां ढूंढ रहे क्यों हैं. And the minute this person who stood out of the line, जैसे ही उसके अंदर ये perception बनता है, clinch होता है, he realizes that what I'm asking for is not different from what everybody is asking for, but the difference has become is where everybody is looking, he can no longer look for it over there. Whoever gets this point. अब उसको ये समझ में आ गया कि जहां ये सब ढूंढ रहे हैं, ये वहां है. अब उसको तो दिख रहा है, सबको तो नहीं दिख रहा, सबकी नहीं समझ में आ रहा कि यहाँ नहीं है. अब उसको दिख रहा है लेकिन उसको पता नहीं है कहाँ, नहीं पता उसको, अभी भी नहीं पता उसको कि ये आनंद जो हम ढूंढ रहे हैं ये है कहाँ. क्यों ढूंढते जा रहे हैं हम आनंद? दिखता हमें दुनिया है, सिर्फ एक दुनिया है हमारे पास जहां हम पा सकते हैं, लेकिन दिख रहा है कि इस दुनिया में किसी को पाया नहीं है, लेकिन आनंद अभी भी चाहिए. आई एम स्टिल इन सर्च ऑफ हैप्पीनेस. वेयर इज दिस नित्यम केवलम निरतिशयम हैप्पीनेस एट ऑल? जिसको ये first thought आ गया, the minute he says कि it is not there, उसका firm हो गया, and that he cannot fuel that pursuit anymore for name, fame, power, position, status. वो अब कर्म बनता नहीं है उस तरफ, क्योंकि वो अब टूट गया, है ही नहीं वहां. सुख चाहिए, लेकिन जब connected नहीं है, the minute I knew that this food has poison, however much I like the food still, however much I like the dish, that pull apart cheese-filled pizza. Mouth waters at the thought of it, supposing. The minute I say I want it there, and I said it has a lizard in it. What happens to me? Nahi chahiye. That nahi chahiye state is that what people get very scared of, but it's nothing to be scared of, because it's the first seed of your final freedom. That is here called Vairagya, but we will not touch upon it still. This is that qualifying. Nitya, Anitya, Vastu, Vivek. जब सही बैठता है तो वैराग्य उत्पन्न हो जाता है. Vairagya is not something that you can wish for and hope for and desire for and work for. Vairagya is purely the product of Viveka Buddhi. नित्य सुख की आशा अनित्य वस्तुओं से is very unintelligent. Very stupid it is. And all of mankind is busy with it. Not one generation. All of us are busy with it. सुख चाहिए, लेकिन कहाँ चाहिए? जहाँ चाहिए वहां वो है ही नहीं. इसलिए जब ये बैठता है, that discernment is settled down. That discernment was called first qualifying nitya, anitya. What is nitya here? The nitya sukh ki asha, want. Observe birth till death. Everything moves between that. Where am I looking for is actually discern. It is anitya. दुनिया में सब कुछ अनित्य है, दुनिया अनित्य है. Therefore, इन दोनों में connection नहीं है. You can't have nitya sukham from anitya vastu. Illogical, unintelligent, and a waste of time. Stupidity. From one standpoint, it's stupidity to ask for nitya sukh in anitya vastu. Anitya sukh in anitya vastu accepted. मान लिया कि जितना जितना सुख जिसमें मिल सकता है उतना उतना सुख लेके खुश रह लो. मगर क्या हम खुश रहते हैं? जितना जितना सुख सब में मिला उतना उतना सुख से are we enough? Is that enough for us? As I said again, no. We find that we want more, a little more. We want niratishayam sukh. That Viveka first decree is when I'm able to disconnect the nitya sukha prapti abhilasha, asha, apeksha on anitya vastu. जब मन में ये दोनों की अलग सेपरेशन हो जाती है, that is the first qualifying viveka. Human being has the capacity for it. We'll talk about it as we move ahead. Now, what really is vivek? As I said, I'm just continuing for a few minutes in this context of what we just said. Vivek क्या है? It's the capacity to separate. From one standpoint, you say, there is a definition teachers have given, lok pariksha की शक्ति को विवेक कहते हैं. लोक की परीक्षा का, examining, the capacity to examine the world as a unit of a universe. Here actually world and universe mean the same, but I'll explain the word lok because in English it's not easy to explain this. So though world and universe can actually mean the same, but here we are including in universe what you will understand when I explain what is lok. What is lok in Shastra? Actually, it says there are 14 lokas. But for general purpose, we say there are 3 lok. Svargalok, Bhulok, and Patal Lok. You don't have to understand them as geographical places as such, though traditional Shastra people say take it as geographical places just because they are meant to be a place for experience. So wherever they are, don't worry about it. It's not a question of, it's not the point of discernment. The point of discernment is that lok means where you inhabit. Jahan aap hain, where you will find yourself as an embodied living being, where you will find yourself as a living entity. That is called lok. Lok is gradation, even in, like we say on the earth also, we say here, why is there so much disparity in the world? कुछ लोग इतने अमीर हैं, कुछ लोगों ने कुछ नहीं किया लाइफ में लेकिन सब कुछ मिला हुआ है, और कुछ लोग इतनी मेहनत करते हैं और कुछ नहीं मिलता, कुछ लोग मेहनत करते हैं मिलता है और खो जाता है और फिर मेहनत करनी एक्सेप्ट, इतना सबके अंदर इतना वेरिएशन क्यों है? Why is there the disparity? Shastra says this disparity is not inherent in the world. The disparity is caused by yourself. I'll leave it here because as we proceed in the text, you will start building it up. The disparity is caused by yourself, and because of which you have different gradations of experiences. And for your different gradation of experiences, to experience what you have earned for yourself, there are different gradations of worlds. All of that put together, Swarg, Bhu and Patal, सबको मिलाके हम यहाँ word universe कह सकते हैं. Though the universe word actually means only what is visible, Swarg and Nark is not visible, Patal is not visible. Therefore, in our concept of Lok, the universe means Drishya and Adrishya world. Lok. Drishya dunya, Adrishya dunya. दोनों ही included है. What is Adrishya? Adrishya is Swarg and Patal. What is Drishya? This earth. So here you take world as earth and universe as inclusive of all Drishya and Adrishya inhabitations that one can find oneself with. Lok pariksha ki shakti means, this is a very beautiful definition. What is Vivek? To be able to discern, is my life going to be different here? Or in other words, will my life be different anywhere else, any other world, whether it's Swargam or Narakam? Will life be any different? Will I ever be a non-wanting person? Will I ever cease to yearn for happiness? Will my struggles ever cease? Wherever I live, whether I acquire a Swarga place, Brahma ji ke saath, Bhagwan ji ke saath, wherever, jo bhi hai shabd hain, don't worry about these words. Because all of them have a meaning which is correct other than what you hear in the world. They all have a way of understanding. So, Lok Pariksha ki Shakti ko Vivek kehte hain. Means, whatever is possibly earned in this world, is any other world going to be anything different from what I experience here? वो अगर मेरे में आ जाए सोच, the capacity to extrapolate, infer at the level of its subtle existence. This inference is, remember the first class, science and Veda. I said the approach, both employ inference, but science will apply it in the world. Vedas will extrapolate it into existence. This lok pariksha करने की means यहाँ जो मैं प्राप्त कर सकूं, क्या इससे कभी ऐसी कोई स्थिति आती है कहीं पे भी जो मैं प्राप्त करके पहुंच सकूं और वहां के बाद I will be now satisfied, satiated. Since you yourself earn your own things, that word is karma, of course, to be discussed at another point of time. But that capacity to examine what can the world give me. And every world is anitya in itself. If I'm able to draw that conclusion by observation and experience that I already go through, looking into it carefully, and I'm able to now come to that conclusion, हाँ, अगर ये दुनिया में अभी सुख नहीं मिला बाहर ढूंढ के, तो किसी भी दुनिया में कभी भी नहीं मिलेगा बाहर ढूंढ के. That capacity is called Vivek. Capacity to separate out two different things which have got mixed up and appear as one. Means I want happiness, but I can't see that I've mixed it up by where I'm looking for it. That mix-up that has happened when I separate the Nitya and the Anitya, that capacity is Vivek. This capacity is possible in humans only. This capacity to do Nitya Anitya Vastu is possible in humans only because they're endowed with the developed instrument. जो अपनी शरीर इस ह्यूमन शरीर में ही मिलता है. जैसे ह्यूमन शरीर का अपना सिस्टम है, digestive, nervous, etc., circulatory. Every living system is different. Human system has this development in it which has the capacity to discern very minutely. That is why we've evolved so much, material world. But when this person matures to understand it is no longer in the world, he uses this capacity to discover at another place. And which other place can there be? He starts that inquiry. अगर ये किसी भी लोक में नहीं मिल सकती, तो या तो मेरी ये इच्छा, मेरी चाह बिल्कुल गलत है. But I can't find a life force in me if I don't have the desire for happiness. So where am I to center this desire for happiness? And when that starts, that pariksha is examination, looking, observing, closely analyzing. When I start evaluating, when I start the evaluating process, that processing is called Viveka. And the capacity to do it is Viveka Shakti. Every human being is supposed to have it, but it's a very rare quality. Not everybody uses it because most of them think Vichar itself is Vivek. And most people are tired with Vichar itself because it requires effort. To develop the capacity for discernment is not an effortless, natural impulse. It's available, but it needs development. You know, like how our fine motor skills are. Human beings have motor skills, but you give your children, you know, at that pre-nursery levels, you give them that big blocks, put them one over the other, do this, etc., etc. So when you do that, what have you started doing? You've started developing the skills, the motor skills, the sensory skills in a human being. In the same way, Viveka Shakti is to be developed. And sadly, unfortunately, whatever, these are all redundant words. Fact is, present education systems do not emphasize on the development of Viveka. All of them develop, most education systems are only developing partly the system, human beings' capacity, which makes them earn, etc., which is good enough, of course, capable of survival. But here the topic is Viveka. And I'll leave you with one thought which we will carry from tomorrow. The next one. What else is the definition? I said two definitions. We've finished with the first one. This Viveka Shakti, this is a swan, Hamsa, called Hamsa. This Hamsa helps to understand that this capacity is there. Hamsa is known to be able to separate out water and milk. So human beings say that it has Nir, Kshira, Viveka. Nir, Kshira, Viveka, Shakti. Water and milk are both together. A swan separates out the milk and the water, which nobody can. The capacity to separate two things which appear as one. There's a lot of material already. Capacity to discern two things which appear as one. That capacity is called Vivek. And tomorrow we will continue with this, for which, of course, I've already gone ahead with. We'll start from here tomorrow. Stop the class here for now. One second. Just end the class. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukha bhag bhavet.